During the final battle at Marineford, Luffy lost his beloved brother, Fire Fist Ace. His death left Luffy in pain and endless self-blame. Although he was saved by everyone, the pain in his heart could not be soothed. Thanks to the companionship and encouragement of the Blue Sea Knight Jinbe, Luffy gradually overcame that devastating loss. After realizing that his crewmates were still counting on him, Luffy realized that he absolutely could not afford to fall. At this time, the Dark King Silver Rayleigh suggested that he should temporarily stop all activities to devote all his time to training. Realizing that the advice was completely correct, Luffy decided to go to Luscana Island and began a 2-year-long training process. On that island, Luffy was directly trained by Rayleigh to master the power called Haki. Although he was busy training, he still missed his teammates. The next day, Luffy began to confront the ferocious monsters of the island to practice, thanks to which he gradually used armament Haki at a basic level. To help him go further, Rayleigh blindfolded Luffy, forcing him to focus on developing his observation Haki ability, something he had a hard time adapting to. At the same time, at sea, the Navy warships were suddenly attacked by a group of pirates. The leader was Bernie, a prisoner who had escaped from Impel Down. He immediately ordered 3 of his trusted subordinates to start the massacre. These 3 possessed formidable strength, and within a minute, they had leveled a giant Navy warship. Immediately after, Bernie also officially joined the fight. On his shoulder was his older brother, who was old, but held a lot of important information. Bernie possesses the power of a devil fruit, allowing him to strengthen objects. In just 50 seconds, he single-handedly wiped out the entire Navy and celestial dragons on the ship. Despite his absolute victory, Bernie spared no weaklings and brutally murdered even his own subordinates, causing the scene to become chaotic and full of violence. At Kuya Castle, Hancock is filled with worrying for Luffy, but the rubber boy still diligently prepares clothes and food for her, despite Neon's warnings. Luffy's irresistible charm makes Hancock infatuated, forgetting about time. Suddenly, a messenger bird flies in, bringing a summons from the government to the Pirate Empress. Despite the serious news, Hancock remains indifferent, her heart completely captivated by Luffy. At the same time, Bernie and his loyal subordinates tested a giant cannon on the island. Its power was so terrifying that in an instant, everything around it was leveled. 3 of his close subordinates had built the ship and the cannon while Bernie was in captivity. His plan was to blow up Mariagewa, the important headquarters of the world government, causing the entire place to tremble under the destructive power. Bernie's brother warns that this plan will not succeed because the government has called in the 7 warlords of the sea to deal with it. Before the Shichibukai were formed, Bernie did not know that these pirates were serving the government. Determined to hunt them down, he and his crew set out to find their target. Meanwhile, Luffy is busy fighting the monsters that are too fast and dangerous. After finishing dinner, he continues to pursue them to get revenge. The aroma of the food drew Luffy to come and enjoy it, not caring who it belonged to. He just ate it enthusiastically. This pile of food was Hancock's gift to her future husband. Because she was forbidden to visit, she asked her 2 younger siblings to bring it, and when she learned that Luffy was still healthy, Hancock was extremely happy. Suddenly, Bernie appeared, questioning the female warriors about the whereabouts of the Pirate Empress. Elder Neon explained that the reason the government summoned the 7 warlords was to deal with this monster. The Flower Sisters tried to fight back when they recognized the enemy, but Bernie was too strong, and both were thrown away. Luffy also recognized them and thanked them for bringing food. Sandersonia and Marigold were captured by Bernie. Luffy immediately attacked, throwing a punch covered in armament Haki, but this move was no problem for Bernie. Bernie responded, kicking Luffy into a rock and throwing it back, the rock having been strengthened 100 times. Luffy falls unconscious shortly after. Bernie uses a snail to send a message, threatening Hancock that if she wants to save her sister, she must come to him. He then leaves the life card and leaves. Luffy wakes up a while later, seeing Hancock, Rayleigh, and Neon in front of him. The Pirate Empress is determined to save her sister, and Luffy wants to come along. Rayleigh protests, worrying that if he goes against Bernie, the risk of danger is extremely high. But that did not stop Luffy. Hancock insisted that she would not let her husband fall into danger, and Rayleigh was finally helpless. Meanwhile, the Marine headquarters was being rebuilt after the summit battle, and the high-ranking Marines discussed Bernie, the one nicknamed World Destroyer. The summoning of the 7 warlords this time was not only to fight the monster, but also to prevent them from forming an alliance with him. Luffy and Hancock follow the life card to Bernie. Neon explains that he was actually a monster in the past, a danger to the world. The Navy once joined forces with pirates to capture a spy that made Bernie angry. This guy was thrown into Impel Down, frozen, and hibernating until now. Blackbeard's release of the prisoners on level 6 helped this monster return and rampage everywhere. Back to Bernie, he was chatting with his frail older brother. His goal was to capture the Pirate Queen, take the opportunity to break into the Marine headquarters, and finally destroy the Holy Land of Mariagewa. His older brother opposed the plan, only wanting to be free, but he could not stop his younger brother's ambition. At this moment, Bernie's ship slowly rose to the surface of the sea, signaling the raft to come. The size of the cannon must be as big as a small island. Bernie stepped out and ordered his subordinates to fire at Hancock's ship, but they all dodged. Luffy also supported with his rubber ability. Bernie took a few small bullets, threw them, and enlarged them 100 times. Luffy was hit and fell into the sea. Hancock was extremely worried and wanted to jump in to save him, but was stopped by Neon because she also ate a devil fruit. Hancock also ate the devil fruit, and the snake Salome slithered into the water to find Luffy. Bernie's soldiers rushed out, making Hancock extremely angry at what they did to her fiancé. She petrified all of them. Luffy was brought onto the ship, and Hancock rushed into the enemy's lair. Bernie's trusted subordinate, Sebastian, a fishman with an iron club, went into battle. This guy also gave the pair a hard time. Hancock stepped forward, trying to petrify her opponent with her ability, but it was useless because Sebastian was blind and couldn't see anything. Luffy threw a powerful punch at the fishman, but he still wasn't defeated, continuing to rush forward to block the two's way. At this moment, a familiar ship approached. It was none other than Buggy, the superstar clown pirates. After the battle at Marineford, Buggy became one of the 7 warlords of the sea and was on his way to the headquarters upon summons. When he saw Bernie's ship in front of him, he and his subordinates panicked. They also learned that Luffy and Hancock were fighting Bernie. His subordinates were excited, thinking that Buggy should cooperate with the other two to take down Bernie. Buggy is still as clever and cunning as ever, wanting to be the fisherman who benefits, taking all the rewards when Luffy defeats Bernie. Taking advantage of his fishman status and stealth ability, Sebastian uses all kinds of tricks to make things difficult for the Luffy and Hancock duo. Finally, Luffy has to use his strongest move, blowing him away. After that, Luffy and Hancock continue to go inside the lair. Bernie was furious and decided to take action. He threw his brother aside, told him to watch the hostage, and left. The fishman stubbornly blocked Luffy's way. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared, the ghost princess Perona. She used tragic ghosts to easily defeat the big guy in front of her. Although Luffy did not remember who Perona was, he still thanked her for helping him. Before he could react, Luffy and Hancock fell straight into a hole that had been ambushed by the enemy. Hancock became jealous when she saw her fiancé talking intimately with a strange girl, thinking that he was cheating on her. From afar, Buggy saw Perona appear with Haki, fearing that the #1 swordsman was coming to steal his credit. Immediately, Buggy ordered his men to attack. After running through the maze for a while, Luffy and Hancock found the exit, but that was Bernie's plan. The couple was separated. Luffy told Hancock to go first, while he would face the monster in front of him. At this time, Bernie's brother contacted him, saying that the man in front of them was Monkey D. Luffy, who had caused chaos at Marine headquarters to save his brother and was also the nephew of the naval hero Garp. Bernie provoked Luffy, asking if he had saved Ace, causing him to freeze, refusing to let the other guy humiliate him. Luffy rushed in to attack, but was knocked down by Bernie's powerful punches. Gear 2 was activated to increase his power, but still could not keep up with Bernie's speed and power, and Luffy was sent flying. Meanwhile, Buggy's group quietly infiltrated, hiding to scout the situation. Bernie decided to give Luffy another chance, throwing all sorts of weapons at him to continue fighting. Luffy ignored them, throwing a punch that grazed his face. Coincidentally, his armament Haki kicked in, causing damage to his opponent's face. Realizing that Luffy still had no control over his strength, Bernie continued to taunt him about how he was too weak to save his brother. Not stopping there, he increased his speed tenfold, unleashing a barrage of brutal blows on Luffy. After this attack, Luffy is completely unconscious. Bernie leaves, not realizing that he was foolish enough not to finish off the main character. Buggy witnesses the whole scene, a little scared but still has faith in Luffy, so he orders his subordinates to treat him. Bernie remembers the time before when he confronted Sengoku and Garp, but was betrayed by his own subordinates, attacked and seriously injured. Because of that past, Bernie now does not want the same thing to happen again. Luffy, despite being bandaged, still falls into a deep coma. Old nightmares keep coming back, causing him pain. Buggy is forced to use drastic measures, slapping Luffy continuously until he wakes up. At the same time, Hancock is fighting fiercely with one of Bernie's subordinates. She was Knighton, a doctor and master of herbal medicine. Knighton used a potion to suppress Hancock's charm, then released a poisonous gas that corroded the Pirate Empress's clothes. Finally, she drank a potion that made her look younger. The two engaged in a duel, initially evenly matched, but gradually Hancock began to act cute, to the point where the old woman could not resist. Despite Knighton's drug use, the Pirate Empress was still incredibly beautiful, and Hancock eventually won. After receiving 7 painful slaps from Buggy, Luffy immediately woke up and rushed to find Bernie to deal with him. He was confronted by one of his subordinates, Gyram, who possessed a cube devil fruit, turning everything he touched into blocks. Gyram controlled the blocks to attack Luffy, forcing him against the wall. Buggy also came, wanting to destroy them. Luffy escaped from the pile of rocks, although he was crushed. Luckily, thanks to his rubber body, he was fine. With the encouragement of his juniors, Buggy boldly told Luffy to go find Bernie and leave the blockhead to him. However, just after finishing his eloquence, Buggy was cornered by Gyram. Even though he was in a life-threatening situation, he still acted like a clown as usual. Luckily, Hancock appeared in time to find Luffy and took the opportunity to defeat the block man. The subordinates thought Buggy had won and kept cheering, causing Mr. Superstar Clown to take credit for the victory. Bernie returned to the control room and received news that all of his subordinates were defeated. Luffy was still alive. He left to deal with the remnants while his brother advised him to stop there. The two brothers' childhood dream was not to target the world government. Since childhood, they were extremely close, sharing the same goal of going out to sea and exploring the world with their own power. Bernie gradually became famous in the pirate world and was also targeted by many bad guys. At this time, the group cherished the dream of building a submarine and a giant cannon so that their opponents would not dare to cause trouble again. After 35 hours, Bernie had changed, no longer the innocent little brother he was before. He did not listen to his brother and left. Although he appeared cold on the outside, he was still worried about his brother. Luffy arrived, met the two Hancock sisters who were being held captive, and encountered the World Destroyer once again. After a while of arguing, the two rushed into battle. In his exhausted state, the rubber guy was still no match for Bernie. Luffy grabbed the enemy's leg, stopping him from moving, then punched him with his giant hand. But that was not enough to damage Bernie. Using armament Haki, he launched a series of punches at his opponent. Despite his best efforts, Luffy could not move Bernie. Helpless, he was pushed against the wall. Buggy and his crew escaped, noticing the approaching marine warships, the fool waving his hands for help. Akainu, however, paid no heed, ordering the ship to be destroyed by artillery fire. Bernie was told by the older brother that the Marines had arrived, while the younger brother replied that they would fire their cannons in retaliation. The older brother warned that if they fired too close, their ship would be sunk as well. Bernie did not care. The ship and his crew were merely tools for his own personal ambitions. Bernie threw a rock at his brother, and Luffy immediately rushed out to block it, angrily punching him in the face. Hancock arrived in time, and following Luffy's orders, saved her two sisters and retreated from danger. The fight between the two men continued, frantic and evenly matched. He threw a punch, and Luffy responded with a powerful kick, making the atmosphere tense to the point of suffocation. Finally, thanks to Haki, Luffy poured all his anger into a punch, sending Burney flying into the spike wall. The Marine's cannons began to destroy the ship. Wanting to keep his promise to Hancock and Zoro, Luffy left. Buggy and his men fled from danger. Burney was exhausted but still wanted to fight back against the Marines. In the past, his trusted comrades had left him alone, leaving him with no one to trust anymore. Burney pumped the cannon's ammunition, increasing its size by 100 times, and if it hit, it would destroy the entire navy. Seeing this scene, Hawkeye jumped up and cut the ammunition in half, causing Burney to be surprised and fall. The cannon fell into the sea. The older brother still wanted to fight by his younger brother's side until the end. The ship exploded, and it was still unclear whether Luffy lived or died, making Hancock extremely worried. But heroes can't die. Luffy came back intact after the explosion. Seeing Luffy safe, Hancock rushed to hug him happily. The ship left. Hawkeye looked at Luffy and smiled. Verona still didn't understand why he appeared. Back on Amazon Lily, Rayleigh was waiting. News of the death of the World Destroyer had spread all over the world. But for some reason, Buggy was the one who was destroyed. A year and a half passed. Luffy had mastered all 3 types of Haki. Rayleigh said that he would return to Sabaody Archipelago, and Luffy decided to use the remaining half-year to train more, before returning to the Blue Sea with the crew. So today's review video ends here. Thank you for your interest and watching. See you again in the next review videos.